Here's an example of John's writing. He's thinking in Aramaic but writing in Greek. So the characteristics of Hebrew literature, Aramaic literature, is seen in the Greek text. Here's how it goes. NRK, ein halagos, kai halagos, ein proston theon, kai halagos, ein halagos. It just flows off your tongue. And it comes across, in the beginning was the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. Now I have with God highlighted there because there's a movement in this section in the first 18 verses where you have Jesus, the Logos, with God. Then we have him coming into the world, and then he was in the world. He dwelt among us. And so he starts out with he was made. He made everything. He had life. There was light, and that light shone in the darkness. And you see the parallelisms here. And then it talks about the man coming sent from God, whose name was John. It sort of is inserted in the midst of a lot of parallelisms. But he goes back into the parallelisms with witness and light again. Witness coming up, light. And here's this, he was coming into the world, and then he came into the world. He was actually in the world, and the world was made through him, but did not know him or comprehend him. And so the idea of knowing, comprehending, and they didn't receive him, but those who do receive him, who believe in his name, he gave them the right, the authority, the exousia, to become children of God, who were born. And then notice this again, very much parallelisms. We're just going to look at a few of these who were born. So by receiving him, you are born. And look at some of these. In the exercises will, he brought us forth by the word of truth, so that he would be a kind of first fruits among us creatures. Again, in chapter 3, unless you're born again, you can't see the kingdom. And in 1 Peter, who according to his great mercy has caused us to be born again to a living hope through the resurrection of the dead. And then not of blood, nor of the will of flesh, nor the will of man. These are just parallelisms, saying basically the same thing again. For you have been born again, not of seed which is perishable, but imperishable. That is, through the living and enduring Word of God. And then the same thing here, going back to whatever is born of flesh is flesh, whatsoever born of spirit is spirit. So the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. The word dwelt here is eskeosin, which comes from skene, which is the word for tent or tabernacle. And it reminds us how that God's glory came down in the tabernacle in the book of Exodus, and how that glory was lost from the way Israel sinned and the temple was destroyed. And now what John is saying is that glory has come back down. The temple has come to us, and the glory is now with us again. And that glory is full of grace and truth. And so here's the idea of witness again, and of receiving, and its grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. The law was given through Moses, but grace and truth through Jesus. It's a very, very great piece of literature. It says here, he has made him known. The only God, that is the word that's used for Jesus in John 3:16, the monogenes, the only begotten of God. And the only begotten is an ancient Near Eastern literature term that means the firstborn of God, that is the one who God has chosen to set as king and ruler over all, that he's above all, that he's given in the place of God. And that ancient Near Eastern literature is found, that idea of the only begotten of God is found in Psalms 89 and other Psalms.